Hello and welcome to The Digital Fix. I am James Perkins and today I am honoured to be joined by the star of indie film sensation The Void, Mr. Aaron Poole. Aaron, thank you for joining me on this interview today.
Hey James, thanks for having me.
Fantastic stuff. So the way I like to start interviews is to get to know the interviewee a little bit more before we delve deep into the topic at hand. So what I want to know is what got you into acting? What films and actors really inspired you?
Well, I think in the beginning it was people like Daniel Day-Lewis who could sort of transform their bodies and really sort of throw everything into the role that got me excited. And then, yeah, it was the American school of method acting that made me feel like I could start to try to learn some of those things, which is pretty hysterical to say for an interview for a creature feature. The irony is not lost on me, dude.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. So yeah, that's absolutely brilliant stuff. I always like to sort of see where people began and what really sort of inspired them. So on to the topic at hand, The Void, as you said, a creature feature. For the purpose of our listeners that might not know what The Void is, could you briefly describe what it's about, like what the core concept is?
Yeah, I mean, the core plot concerns a group of people stranded in a failing hospital as they try to determine why they are surrounded by a mysterious cult and what is the source of the grotesque transformations that seem to be inhabiting corpses and members of their group. So it is a thin plot that surprises, every 10 minutes with a new twist. But I think the core concept has something to do with cosmic dread and our relationship to utter nothingness, whether it be hell or heaven, in our perspective and experience.
Awesome, yeah. It certainly starts off, quite normal, and then all of a sudden the switch is flicked, and all hell breaks loose. That's what really drew me to it. As I mentioned to you off air, the buzz it was getting from film festivals, and the concept of it, the fact it was a horror and a creature flick, and really sort of harken back to the 80s is what really drew me to it, and I'm really glad I managed to find it. So when you were first handed the script, what was it that stood out to you and made you want to be a part of this project?
I love how it just keeps building into a crescendo and then moves past what I would expect any kind of a horror to accomplish. I love that it breaks down almost the fourth. Well, it does. It breaks down the fourth wall. The end ultimately is what sold me on it. I know that there's a lot of people who love it and a lot of people who hate the end. And for me, I'm in the love camp. That's what sold me on the movie.
Awesome, yeah. That's the thing about endings, is what I love is when it's a really polarizing ending. It's something that really it gives people the chance to talk about it. Recently, another horror creature film that you could say is 10 Cloverfield Lane. A lot of people, in terms of like big, the big blockbusters, a lot
Yeah,
of people didn't like that ending, but a lot of people loved it. I'm in the love camp for that. But it
yeah.
creates a discussion, doesn't it? So the fact that it is a polarizing ending for The Void, I think that's bringing it more to the forefront and giving it a lot more publicity, which I think is a good thing, really.
I think horror fans are among sort of the last participants in story where, yeah, sort of an intellectual discussion is a part of it, but there's just a visceral appreciation of story that dominates discussion, more so than sort of the high art of say more dramatic films or quote unquote serious films. So end and twists and sort of like micro discussions of whether a character is real or not is something that we all really relish. And yeah, I do count myself in amongst horror fans now. I'd say 5 years ago I wasn't, but it's exciting to be a part of the community. It's such a lively discussion all the time.
Yeah, that's what really draws me to horror as well. I'm a huge horror fan. I like to call myself like a horror aficionado on our site, in amongst our community of writers. And whenever it comes to the latest horror film, be it a big blockbuster film or an indie sensation like The Void, I'm always wanting to go in, and I always want to be scared and terrified and sort of kept on the edge of my seat. That's exactly what I got here. And that's, of course, thanks to your amazing acting and the direction as well. And what I wanted to get you to tell me is, what was it like working with a director? So we've got Stephen Katansky, is that how you pronounce his surname?
It's Kostansky, yeah,
Kostansky, yeah. And Jeremy Gillespie as well. Or Gillespie.
that's right.
I don't want to obviously butcher
It's,
their names.
yeah, no, that's great. It's Jeremy Gillespie and Steve Kostansky.
Yeah, how was it working with them?
Great. Really, yeah, it was a lot of fun. They, having sort of never entered a milieu where they weren't working with their friends, I think were quite nervous. And in a series of meetings just in leading up to shooting, we were able to establish sort of a strong relationship, a creative vibe. They completely bought into my approach to the circumstances of the story, and I came to see that Steve would be chiefly operating the direction of the special effects and the monsters, and then how they sort of entered the main story, and Jeremy would sort of focus on tone and pace, and they would come up to me usually after every take and just give me sort of a quick comment. But for the most part, they let me to my own devices. So it's I would say it's my own fault. But they were great fun.
Awesome. And what was the feeling of community and family with your other co-stars as well? You got Ellen Wong, who I recognized straight away, and of course for listeners out there, she's probably better known as Knives Chow from Scott Pilgrim. How was it working with the rest of the team?
It was a lot of fun. It was like a summer camp. You often hear actors say that, but truly we were up north in a smaller town north of Toronto, Ontario, and so this was a little steel town that had an old high school that was scheduled for demolition, and so it was, I think, really well converted into a hospital. And sort of being on location, shooting together like that creates a real camaraderie. Ken Welsh, Kathleen Monroe, Evan, Mick, Daniel. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
That's great. It really comes across as well in the film, that everyone was getting along really well and working well with each other. And that's what I really like about a film with a small, tight-knit cast, is if they don't work well with each other, if they don't bounce well off each other's performances, then it really sort of feels disjointed. But this felt smooth as anything. So you said it was a high school that was due for demolition. So it was constructed into the hospital wing. Did the fact that it was an abandoned location that was due for demolition and sort of turned into this hospital wing, did that add an extra layer of creepiness when you were shooting the film?
Oh yeah, I mean, the hallways that are burnt out in the story are physically like that. It wasn't something that was sort of green screened in later, or even touched up to a great extent in color correction. Walking through all that debris in such low light was really quite creepy. And any old institution with its echoes and darkness is really really creepy at night. And there were stories that were coming out from people that were on security watch at night about noises that they'd heard and episodes. So you never know what's imagination, but it definitely added another layer.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it was haunted.
Yeah.
So as we found out, the creatures that audiences see in the film are practical effects, much like, as I mentioned before, the classic 80s films such as The Thing. And I felt like the whole project as a whole was a love letter from all involved to those classics. What was the acting process like against some of these monstrous creations?
It's like recording a record live from the floor. You've got all the elements there, man. So you are reacting to everything that's happening, and you're contributing, but you're a part of this big jam out. Nothing is being added afterwards that you aren't reacting to, that that you haven't anticipated, and it's just a load of fun. It's the biggest game of monsters and heroes that you can think of.
Fantastic. That is awesome. Yeah, I love it when stuff is practical effects over CGI, because you get a real sense, like you said, you're in the moment. You're having to. It's reactionary, not layered on afterwards. So it
Yeah,
feels genuine. It really feels like
yeah.
you're in the moment. So this has been awesome. And finally, I would like to know, if possible, without major spoilers, I would like to know what your favorite scene to shoot was and why. Nice little fun question to finish on.
Wow, without spoilers. Interesting. I really enjoyed the first discovery
Hmm.
of the first monstrosity,
Yeah.
because working opposite Evan was a real joy. He, in, in his glorious sort of meth head way, added an element of panic to that whole scene, and it was fun to physically try to free him from those handcuffs.
Fantastic, yeah. Speaking about Evan, it was quite funny. Shortly after I got in contact with you on Twitter to take part in this interview, nice little side note here for everyone. Evan actually liked the tweet that you liked as well, and I thought that was pretty cool. That I'd sort of got my opinion on the film out there, so that was a nice little touch. But yeah, it certainly did. That was the key moment for me, where it ramped everything up to 11 and completely blew the whole thing wide open. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's a cool moment, and I think it it strikes to the core of what the Void accomplishes. I mean, I think that the confusion and the disorientation is a big part of how Jeremy and Steve wanted the characters to interact with what was happening. There's not enough time for them to figure out the logic and like how to kill these creatures. There's just not enough time. It's just pure survival, and I think that scene is a great invitation to pure survival.
Definitely, yeah. So that's all the questions I have for you, really. I've loved hearing about some of the behind the scenes stuff as well. So for everyone out there, please do go and check out The Void. It's available to rent now on Amazon here in the UK, and it's coming out on Blu-ray and DVD on the 24th of April. So please do go and check it out. And again, a massive, massive thank you to you, Aaron, for coming on and talking to me today.
My pleasure, James. Thanks so much, man.
No worries. I've been James Perkins, and for more movie news, reviews, and interviews, be sure to keep it fixed right here at The Digital Fix.